Alright, my man, so I started my UI off looking like this because I know Final Fantasy can look a bit overwhelming, so I figured the best way to start would be to start it with it looking overwhelming. I've got a couple of things that I wanted to cover because I wasn't sure how far on you were familiar with the game, so I was just like, I'm gonna put a couple of clips together with a couple of how-tos on how to like keep things a bit slicker and less stressful when you're kind of navigating the game. So the first thing I wanted to show you was the kind of quick cancel thing. Um, you can select anything quickly by just clicking your touchpad on your controller. So like doing that will take you to the first or nearest window. Clicking either side will cycle them anti-clockwise, so you can see, or rather the order I open them in. I think when they're all down, it kind of runs anti-clockwise. But you can see I can flick through every window that I have open. Right now, that is still really stressful to kind of see all this and even just do this. So I don't want any of this shit up. So the first thing I do is, this is obviously one that's like got an answer in it. You have to do the answer. So like you have to select the answer after hitting your touchpad to highlight it. Like a wee gold ring comes around it, and you can say no. And then after that, you can click on things and just press circle. Once they're highlighted, circle closes them. No problem. Like that. Job done. It's all away. Cancelling works for anything. If you go and you target the nearest thing just by walking near somebody and hitting X, it'll target. You hit a circle and it comes off. No problem, right? If you are to if you want to soft target something, like hitting X when you're nearby something, they'll hot target something immediately. But if you use an arrow key, you will soft target, where it doesn't put a ring around them, it just has like a little rotating circle around them, as opposed to if I hit X on him now, you'll have that. So circle will cancel off. You can soft lock things to choose what you're going to lock onto before talking to them. That's important, and it kind of comes a bit. It's more important later, is what I should say, especially for dungeons and stuff. So the next thing that's kind of good to look at is the quick accessing your journal. So the way I access my journal normally is just cycling up to your quests that you've kind of got on the right hand side, and just hitting, if you go to one of the titles, it'll open up your journal and it shows you what you have, what you need to complete. Again, this looks really overwhelming because I have a habit of just selecting every goddamn quest in existence because I'm like, I'll get to it later. But they usually will tell you what your requirements are. If you hit X on any one of them, it takes you to this bit, and you can read it by scrolling up and down with the right stick. And then if you click the map, it will show you where you can access the quest on the map. And then it's the same to cancel out. You can hit square or circle to close that, and you can hit circle to close that. No problem, easy peasy. The other way to access the journal is hitting options on your controller and going along to logs. Or not, it's in duty, and then it's just there, and it brings you to the same thing. But I find rather than going into the start menu, just like cycling through and clicking, I have a habit of doing that. So the next function kind of helps you like edit layouts and move things that annoy you and stuff like that when you're kind of not in a dungeon, but I wouldn't recommend really using it for anything fast paced. Is simulating the mouse. So obviously you can simulate mouse with your touchpad, which is fine if you just want to quickly click onto a specific box. If you want to move stuff around though, like the chat box and stuff down here, best thing to do is do the mouse simulation, which if you hold L1 and click in the right stick, you'll get your virtual mouse. L2 is your left click and R2 is your right click. So for example, I want to move this window around. I can go onto the general, left click, and I can move the box around like so. Alright. Also I should say, like, my UI is a bit all over the place just because the way the TV is where I am right now. It was easier to have this layout rather than move everything around. I was lazy and I just was lying in bed and thought I'll just move my UI around rather than moving the plants around in the room. When you're looking at chat boxes and stuff, if you are not selecting anything, if you cycle around until you're onto the chat box, moving around with the arrows, you can move up to select names, where you can hit square and you can do options. I can send tells to my friends if they show up here, or anybody. You can change the channel you're speaking in. You can either type things like the standard /P for party, or FC for free company, but you can just change your thing, what you're talking about. If you just go to here, click this, and you can just decide what you're going to do, or what channel you're going to chat to. Um, excuse me. The game gives you the default setup of having general, battle, and event down the bottom. Once you're on this, doesn't matter what you're doing or what you've highlighted. You hit L1, R1, you can cycle through them. General is the fine. Like, I never really use battle or event. I do have one at the end though for like my free company, so I can see all their stuff through all the messages that I get normally. Um, but I've been looking to overhaul that, but I've not done it because I'm lazy. So the next thing I was going to talk about is the HUD layout menu. So if you hit options, you go all the way along to the end, you can go to HUD layout. This is a bit weird at the start, but this can help you just move stuff around. I normally use the virtual mouse for here, so I can go into use virtual mouse. I can left click cross hotbar, which is that thing, and move it left and right, whatever is appropriate. And that's just like, whatever. You can see you can just left click on them with your L2 and you can move them around. Things that you don't use will just not be there for a class, but for example the Astrologian uses an Arcana gauge. If I was to change class like to a tank, you'd have like an enmity gauge, which you can do the exact same thing. You can move it around to wherever you want it, like conveniently placed. You've got your duty list as well here, everything. The only thing you can't move here really is your chat box, which is the thing I showed you how to do anyway outside of the UI. Once you're done, make sure you disable your virtual mouse or you'll be stuck here forever. And then go back to here and hit save, and then that way you'll come out of it. So the next thing I wanted to show you that's quite good and kind of like a really excellent tool to have for just using your hotbars and navigating the world, particularly in dungeons, a lot easier, is the cross hotbar feature with your controller. Obviously, if you're familiar with keyboards and stuff like that, having specific layout is really easy on a keyboard, but it kind of feels like a second language when you're doing it on a controller. So first things first, you want to do is go into your options and go along to system and go to character configuration. So you get a menu like this. If you go all the way down to the hotbar settings, you'll have loads of settings here which are a bit daunting, but what you should do is just go straight over to cross hotbar, and what you want to do is you want to go down, all the way down to always display WXHB. Okay, and so what you'll notice if you do this, it will give you another 2 hotbars on the top here along your original hotbar. Mine already have stuff in it because I was lazy. I didn't want to cancel my hotbars out, but you can. I'll show you how it all works in a second. So now that you can see that, yours will probably be empty or might have a couple of random things in it depending on what you've been doing. The next thing you want to do is go over to custom, and when you go into custom, you can see there's enable expanded controls and enable your WXHB. So you've now got that visible, so you want to enable it. So you enable it and make sure you enable directional buttons and not just only 4. If you enable only 4, you get this. If you enable directional buttons as well, you can basically double tap R2, double tap L2, and you can get into a second hotbar without having to cycle through your hotbars or try and desperately find what you're looking for and get all tripped up. So the way it works is I've set cross hotbar 3 left and right to the double taps. So if I double tap R2, I go to my hotbar setting number 3 on the right hand side, and I go to my if I do it on the left with L2, I go to my hotbar set crossbar 3 on the left hand side. So if I actually tap R1, if I go out of this menu and I tap R1, I will cycle through my hotbars. So if I'm at hotbar 1, hotbar 2, hotbar 3, and as you can see, all the ones beneath it are exactly the same as the ones on top. Alright, so going back to our hotbar, so if you set them as 3 here, those are your 2 shoulders now, as I've explained, and give that a wee try for yourself. So coming back out now, I have hotbar 1 here on the left and right, as you're familiar with already. Then you hit R1, you have hotbar 2, which I don't really use for my healer right now. and then obviously you've got hotwire 3, which you now no longer need to cycle through 3 times for, because you've now got it on your shoulders. So the reason I do it like this is, for example, and I'll show this in a bit more detail shortly, is if I am in a dungeon or whatever and I am targeting an enemy, let's say, I can, or rather targeting an ally, I can hotlock to an ally and just keep healing over and over again. Obviously it's going to heal me because it's not actually a party member. And then if I wanted to attack somebody, I can move to an attack enemy and double tap, and then I can use my attack skills on them. It's pretty straightforward, easy peasy. And then what I would do is, normally if I was on duties or stuff, I would replace these ones in here with items. So if I wanted to use quick items like potions or ethers or anything like that, I can hit R1 and then I can use items from that menu pretty quickly. So yeah, pretty straightforward. So yeah, best thing to really do is kind of show it in action a bit, so I'll just jump into a duty.